Hello Internet, Dominic here with another top 5 video for you, and today I thought we'd take a look at the top 5 ideas for a possible Game of Thrones spin-off series. Now, just a quick note, there hasn't been any real indication that any of the ideas I'm about to discuss here will ever see the light of day, but these are the ones that I personally think would make for the most entertaining television. As ever, there's obviously no correct top 5 here, so if your ideas for spin-off shows differ, then comment down below and let me know what you guys would rather see. Possible spoilers ahoy, and let's go. Now, although this is my number 5, it may actually be the one that has the highest probability of coming to fruition, as we all know that Georgie Boy has a particular fondness for these characters. For those of you who don't know, the Dunk and Egg stories are a series of prequel novellas that follow the adventures of Sir Duncan the Tall, a hedge knight and probable ancestor to Brienne of Tarth, and his squire, Egg, a kid who would one day become King Aegon Targaryen, 5th of his name. These books take place roughly 90 years before the start of Game of Thrones, and although there have only been 3 so far, George apparently wants to do 6 to 12 of them, and they could end up chronicling the entire lives of these two unlikely friends. The novellas are pretty good and offer great insight into the history of Westeros, going a long way to flesh out and amplify the world building. There are great characters, some of whom tie into the world of A Song of Ice and Fire as we know it, and there is genuine drama and character development at play here. These may be anthology books, but they are treated with the same care and attention as the main series of novels. Also, the wayfaring, adventuring, episodic nature of the stories would likely lend itself well to television. It wouldn't be as epic as the Game of Thrones we know and love, but there would likely be enough there for fans to get on board. George R.R. Martin has admitted that there has been interest for either movies or a TV show based on the novellas. In response, he said, "There has been interest, yes, but the rights situation is complicated. Film and television rights to the characters and the 3 published Dunk and Egg stories remain with me at present, but HBO, when acquiring the rights to the Song of Ice and Fire novels, also acquired film and television rights to the world of Westeros. So, if we did Dunk and Egg with anyone else, we would need to remove all the references to House Targaryen, the Iron Throne, etc. Not completely impossible, but certainly undesirable. Whereas if HBO decided they wanted to make a Dunk and Egg miniseries or TV movies, they'd first need to buy the stories. That's a much more attractive proposition for all concerned, I think, but if it happens, it will happen years from now, not tomorrow and not next week. I personally think that the TV movies angle would be a great idea, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens on this front. Remember Arya's direwolf from season 1 who Arya sent away after she attacked Joffrey? She was called Nymeria, and she was called so in honour of Nymeria, the bad-ass warrior queen princess of the Rhoynar, and she who unified the disparate kingdoms of Dorne. You see, a long time ago, the Valyrians, ancestors of the Targaryens, were at war with a people known as the Rhoynar, and although a Rhoynish dude called Garin the Great managed to defeat a few of the Valyrian armies, and even kill a couple of dragons in the process, the Valyrians, well, had more dragons and used those dragons, 300 of them to be precise, to burn the Rhoynish armies to the ground and destroy the Rhoynar city of Nymeria. Now, Nymeria, a Rhoynish princess at the time, led her surviving people into exile, and eventually she wound up at Dorne with 10,000 ships. When she got there, Dorne was in a constant state of civil wars between petty lords, and so Nymeria allied herself with Lord Mors Martell and proceeded to conquer the rest of Dorne, sending the other 6 self-styled kings of Dorne to the wall. She also burned her fleet of 10,000 ships as a gesture, declaring to her people that this was now their home. The reason I think Nymeria's story would be an amazing one to adapt to screen is because it really is an incredible story of a strong and capable woman who suffers tragedy, overcomes adversity, and uses her strength and intellect to forge a new kingdom for herself in a foreign land. Her story does in a sense mirror that of Daenerys, but it would still be so great to see, especially as her time in exile consists of her spending some time on the tropical Summer Isles, a place that those of you who only watch the TV show Game of Thrones will unfortunately know nothing about, but would provide a rich and diverse new culture for us to explore and understand. Nymeria is a total badass, and her story is one that I would absolutely love to see adapted. Before the War of the Five Kings that we see unfold throughout Game of Thrones, there was another epic and all-encompassing civil war that would have a lasting effect on the Seven Kingdoms. It was called the Dance of the Dragons, and it was the war of succession fought between Aegon II Targaryen and his half-sister Rhaenyra over the throne of their father Viserys I. The conflict resulted in not only fracturing the realm, but also in the death of all but two of House Targaryen's dragons, and many more Targaryens themselves. It was the war from which the Dragon Lords would never fully recover. You see, basically, King Viserys Targaryen I couldn't have a son with his first wife, and so he anointed his daughter Princess Rhaenyra as heir to his throne. But then, years later he remarried, and his second wife, Queen Alicent of House Hightower, gave him a son, Aegon II Targaryen. Now, although the laws say that the male heir is the first in line of succession to the throne, Viserys maintained until his death that Princess Rhaenyra was to be his heir, a decision that split his court in two and would eventually go on to act as catalyst for civil war. The Dance of the Dragons would undoubtedly make for a series every bit as high octane, dramatic and awe-inspiring as Game of Thrones. It is filled with complex and well-rounded characters, heartbreak, descent, incredible battles and of course dragon fights. Quite a few dragon fights. Now the real foreseeable problem here is that this series would cost a ridiculous amount to produce, especially considering the number of dragons and just how prominently they feature in the narrative. It's a spin-off that I honestly don't think we'll ever see, but one that I want to happen oh so very much. Speaking of dragons, we have Valyria, the greatest civilization the world of ice and fire had ever known. The Valyrians, who were once a peaceful sheep-herding folk, were the first people in recorded history to tame the dragons. They used magic to achieve this feat and were eventually successful in breeding and training the dragons as weapons of war. They then used these weapons to expand and conquer much of the known world, even managing to bring down the Giscari Empire, which had been the dominant power in Essos for millennia. They then ruled their freehold from the magical city of Valyria for the next 5,000 years until they were all wiped out by a cataclysmic event known simply as the Doom. But what exactly the Doom consisted of isn't really known, although there are a few theories out there. Now, unfortunately, very few specifics are known about the culture of Valyria and the deeds of its rulers. We know that the ruling class were the Dragon Lords, a collection of 40 or so houses, one of which were the Targaryens. We know that the Valyrians were slavers, and we know that theirs was a culture deeply steeped in magic, but other than that, little is known regarding their histories. A spin-off show that attempted to fill in some of these gaps would be hugely welcome, although I admit it would take away from some of the mystique that surrounds the ancient civilization. Regardless though, I think it would be great to experience a moment in history so far removed from what we know. Again, the cost may be an issue as there would likely need to be dragons aplenty, but they wouldn't necessarily need to feature in all that extensively. Either way, I have so many questions about the Valyrians and I would love to see them be answered. That's right, number one is the future. Something that we really can't quantify or discuss until Game of Thrones itself wraps. Hell, we don't even know if there will be a future given the threat of the White Walkers, but if there is, I'd love to see it. I don't know who will sit the Iron Throne, if there will even be an Iron Throne to sit, or if the Seven Kingdoms will still even submit to feudal rule, but I'd love to find out. I would love to follow the children or grandchildren of a cast of characters that we already know so well, and see how they fare in the world their ancestors left for them. The new power struggles, the new allegiances, the new rivalries. I really want to see where this world goes, as I can't get enough of it. Will the North remain an independent kingdom? Will Daenerys reclaim the throne and begin an entirely new line of Dragon Lords? What will become of Hot Pie and his descendants? It's difficult to speculate with Game of Thrones still actively going at the time of this video, but I think it would be interesting nonetheless. Whole new original stories overseen by George R.R. Martin and produced by HBO. Now that's something I think we can all agree would be quite exciting to behold. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and thanks to every single one of you that has come to this channel and supported me since I started making these videos 6 months ago. I want to thank everybody who has watched the videos and commented, but a special thanks goes to everybody that has taken the time to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button on so many videos. You guys and girls know who you are. You've made this experience so far such an incredible one for me, as I really couldn't do this without your support, encouragement encouraging me to keep going and keep making content for you. 2016 has been a notoriously shitty year, but you guys have provided a ray of light for me and I can't thank you enough. Here's to 2017 and the hope that together we can grow this channel into something truly special. Thank you all so much and Happy New Year to each and every one of you.